What would make Sydney the best marathon major event if they get in?
So I think with Sydney, it's about Sydney, Australia. And everyone in the world knows Sydney. They know Australia, but they don't know the marathon yet. I think that's just the missing piece, is bringing something that people know all over the world, like the 6 world majors, and learning from them. Like, I've been to Berlin as a runner. I've been to New York as part of a race director experience. I've seen what it takes from a participant and a behind the scenes view. And we just need to instill some of that culture. And we've got something very special. So you get the race part right. We've already got the destination part right. You run across the Harbour Bridge. You finish at the Opera House. There is no, all bias aside, there's no better finish line in the world than on the doorstep of the Sydney Opera House. It was phenomenal on the weekend. Like the imagery, the video, it's just phenomenal. So we've got the destination, we've got Sydney, Australia, and now we just need to implement the race. And I think we did a really good job in year one. So just got to build on that for year two.
Yeah, and I would say, as someone that's been here for almost 12 years, there's nothing like Sydney. Sydney being, this destination that that a lot of people, let alone runners, want to come to, because it is on the other side of the world, but it's still familiar. As an American, I call it America Light, Lite, like Miller Lite, Bud Light. It's just more like, you know what? It's got that American vibe, but with a bit of a British flavor. And also, we're on the other side of the world, and we've got all these beaches and pretty decent weather. I'd actually say it's a bit too cool for me. I'd like it hotter. But we also have very warm winters, compared to the U.S. So I'll take both ends. It's the range is here versus New York. The range is here. Very, very hot, very, very cold.
Yeah.
100% that this could be the best one for a lot of reasons. I do agree with you, and I'm glad that you gave me some evidence, because you're an insider on that. What would you say is one thing that your team is most proud of in the past race with the new rebranding?
What we achieved in a year is fairly unprecedented. So we have 5,000 people registered for the marathon last year. We had 17,000 register this year. Like that hasn't happened in Australia, and I dare say it hasn't happened in many places around the world to that scale in a 12-month period. So Wayne, who is the race director and the CEO of Pont 3, he's a visionary. So he's like, what are the pieces of the puzzle I need to put together in order to give ourselves the best chance at becoming the next world major marathon? So he built his team. He got a lot of funding from Destination New South Wales government. They're our big strategic partners. I mean, if you've got government on board, you can do anything. Yeah. Sky's the limit. Really and you need them. Like if you're going to try and bring an annual international event to Sydney, Australia, you've got to have those big players on board to back you. And, you got to have transport on your side to, close as many roads as possible. Make sure that participants are getting the best experience possible, because you're able to actually close roads. I mean, we shut down the city of Sydney. One of the, there's not that many bigger things that you can do than shut down London, New York, and Sydney around the world in terms of logistics exercise. So, I think what we achieved in a single year, like the numbers are amazing, 5 to 17,000 in the marathon. But I think how the city embraced it, how many more people came out and supported the event this year. We gave them reasons to. We had lots of food, lots of beverage, entertainment on course. We had Nickelodeon, all the fun stuff for the kids. But the way that city embraced it, we've never seen anything like that for a marathon, outside of the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games before in this country. So that was particularly inspiring. It felt good to be a runner in Sydney that day, whether you were participating or not. Like it was just like, wow, this city is actually embracing running rather than complaining about not being able to go over the bridge to Manly Beach for a swim, which happens for 20 years beforehand.
Yeah. How does Sydney embraced it for an event that is very niche and specific for me? Like, what is it? 1 in 100 people run, I think. Only 1% of society runs. And then of that 1%, only 1% of runners run marathons. Yep. So you got 1% of 1%. And that's 0.01%. Or is it 0.001%? Maths is in my my strong suit at times. But yeah, like that means it's even more special for me, because it's this thing that I think is like pride and whatever drinking thing's happening in whatever month is happening, like that all over the world. There's always something where everyone's like, yeah, let's get drunk, and they shut the city down. Like that's all. Like that's a given. Like whereas everyone's behind that. But for something that's like, you got to show up and do it. You know, it's hard. Like it's not as easy as going down and drinking or going to the festival, you know, and partying with your friends. Like, and no shade to that. Like I'm not hating on that by any means, but that's kind of passive. You know, you got to show up and want to run or do or on top of that, do the training to run your best time. And a lot of respect to City for making that work and the people that came out to support it. And I'm getting kind of emotional because I'm like, this is something that I really think that's like super special to me, and that it became very special to the city. So I digress on that. What would you say is something you will look to improve, because you're now Sydney Marathon, you will look to improve in the future?
We need to take that next step now. So I think a lot of people are talking about the course. It's proof of concept, right? I mean, you can't go government and say, hey, shut down 20 kilometers more roads. We got 5,000 people running a marathon. You can't do that. They'll just laugh in your face until you go out the door. 17,000 people, okay. You're 1 year away from getting an annual event that's going to bring in 20,000 international people who are all going to stay a week in Sydney and bring hundreds of millions of dollars to the economy.
Wait, 20? It's 40, right? It'll be 40, right?
Well, so 40% of the New York Marathon is international. And I dare say that there will be a high percentage for Sydney.
Sorry,
when we get to that.
The people coming in. Of the 40,000, there would be 50% would be
not from Australia. Correct. Yeah, sorry. So, like, because we've now got those numbers on the table, all of a sudden you've got a little bit more of a leg to stand up on. So, yeah, people are like, okay, I don't like running 9K around Centennial Park. Sure, there was more people supporting me this year, but it's still 9K around Centennial Park. And there's a wiggle there and a squiggle there. And I get it, right? I've run the Sydney Marathon twice. I get it. I hear you. I hear your frustrations. But that's the thing, right? Like, you go to Transport for New South Wales and you say, hey, guys, like, you know, this is what we achieved in a year. This is what we're looking to achieve next year in 2024. And then in 2025, the whole game changes. So those conversations, so that's what we need to improve on. But those conversations are already happening for next year and moving forwards, because you have to look into the future. We're going to become a world major marathon. We have to act like it. We tried to act like it as best we could this year. We have to be there next year. Yeah. You only get signed off if the other 6 race directors of all the world major marathons like, yep, Sydney, like that Sydney Marathon looks like the other 6, therefore, welcome to the party. Yeah, that's basically what's going to happen.
I'm excited. I'm excited for whatever happens, and you know, we'll talk about the course another time.
You might get the bug. You never know. And New York's always calling. You can always go home.
You know what I said? I actually said when I got into running, I said I want to do New York Marathon as my marathon that I'm going to do proper. So got to do Sydney because I live right here.
Yeah.
I literally live in the city. So, and then I'd want to do New York. That would probably, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm done. But you know, we're not talking about hating on the marathon, because but again, 1% of runners do marathons. So It feels like everyone does a marathon, especially when that marathon's happening that week. You know, it's like, oh, everyone's doing Boston, everyone's doing Chicago, everyone's doing Berlin, you know? So I always have to remember that 99% of my audience that is listening and watching, consuming my content is like, cool. I'm not doing it, so I don't feel as bad like whatever. But you know, this isn't a podcast hating on the marathon. We love the marathon. We love the marathon. Everything about the marathon. Do you have any final words for people who are interested in doing a world major in Sydney in either 2024 for the Masters or 2025? Counting chickens before they hatch.
Yeah,
you know, not trying to tell the future, but if we become a marathon major, so like basically, what's your billboard to them? You get 10, 15 words. What would you tell this person that's on the fence?
2024, there's 2 paths. So if you are a marathon and you're over the age of 40, come to Sydney. It's a world championship event. It hasn't been run out of the world majors before. This is the first time it's ever happened. Come and experience
This
Sydney.
Is the first world championship.
The first one that's been outside the world, the world majors. So it's never been run out. So it's in Chicago in a couple of weeks' time, but it's never been not at a world major marathon. So that's basically Abbott saying, hey, here's a teaser. Here's the trailer for next year. And that's kind of what it is. So come be part of a world championship in Sydney and see what we're going to be all about in 2025. So that's the age groupers. Everyone else is thinking about doing it next year, in our last year of candidacy before the six get round the table with Dawn Stone, the CEO of Abbott World Marathon Majors, and votes. Be a part of history. Be part of that journey. Say that you actually helped Sydney get across the line. And that's a really special thing. You're also going to guarantee a spot when we do become a world major in 2025. When, not if. And that's, I mean, we have to have that confidence.
I like it.
And that, so, you know, like 2025, we all know the ballot process. We all know how hard it is to get to the other six. If you run next year, you are guaranteed a spot in 2025. So they're the two selling points for international people for next year, I'd say, outside of the whole Sydney destination, New South Wales tourism, all that sort of stuff, beaches. Did anyone say 30 degrees? Beach weather?
Yeah. Or it could be like the weekend before and after, which was 15 degrees.
15, yeah. Well, it might be 15 degrees on race day and 30 degrees on Monday for recovery day.
Yeah, recovery. Yeah, you can do recovery swim in Bondi. Yeah.
And I think, 2025, like it becomes something that like thinking about now, we don't really know what a world major is going to look like in Australia, but we know it's going to change the sport. It's going to change the sport for the best. It is going to benefit Australia so much more than 40,000 people, generating hundreds of millions of dollars. For the local economy, it will change the sport because all of a sudden there's going to be a yearly event where everyone will come out and see people from all over the world doing something that is so, I guess, like, when I say healthy, I don't mean just physically healthy. I mean healthy for the city, healthy for like people's psyche, and just seeing like it's bigger than just a race. It's a human movement. Like, it's literally seeing this, like, it's like a huge parade going through the city where everyone around the world is coming and doing it. And it's like, you don't need to know why. All you need to know is it's a big deal. And it will become a big deal. And New York Marathon, not everyone understands what the marathon is. Not everyone knows it's 26.2 miles, but everyone knows that the city of New York shuts down for a really special day. And there's 20 people deep in Central Park. I was there. I wrestled myself to 8 deep. Like, it was a massive, massive deal. And people were just out there screaming for 6 hours. And I was one of them. And I was like, it's just this human movement thing that you just get swept up in it so easily. So that's what it will do to Sydney. That's what it will do to Australia. And we just want to push as hard as we can to make that a reality in 2025.